Good evening to everyone. I'm Captain Govind Kumar Gautam, Managing Director, Fast Freight. I've been instrumental in starting Pacific World Shipping Company before, and then I moved on to start my own shipping company. I've been one of the pro advocate for the technology usage in our shipping, and digitalization in shipping has come up as one of the very good advanced technology, and when we are trying to address through the trade reboot. I would like to briefly go through the profile of our speakers today, so as to we get on to the real topic and issues, and what and how can the digitalization in shipping can help us. I would like to introduce my co-speakers. Now, Mr. Pieter Kinds. Pieter Kinds has been active in freight, audit, and payment and logistics procurement for 18 years. He was the head of sales of Control Pay, which was sold to Transporian in 2020, and is now CEO of Freight Tender, a cloud-based logistics procurement platform, and of TenderX, a logistic community platform. Welcome, Pieter Kinds. And I will also give a brief on the Mr. Jerome Tillier today. Thank you, Mr. Jerome Tillier, to be on the forum today. With a background in telecoms, EDI, and treasury integration, Mr. Jerome enjoys bringing ideas from the other industries and corporate functions to resolve modern and real-life business challenges. He truly believes that we live in a world of possibilities where all sorts of challenges can be surmounted. Thank you, Mr. Jerome, and we look forward to hear your experience to that. And Mr. Kaushik Reddy. Today we have, he is the CEO of the QuantShip, an analytics company that is bringing quant algorithms and AI to the bulk commodities freight markets. QuantShip's proprietary algorithms, similar to QuantH, funds are being used by the charterers, traders, and shipping companies to manage their positions on the freight market. Kaushik has an MBA from INSEAD and has over a decade of experience across operational and commercial roles in shipping and logistics across Middle East, UAE, and rest of the world. And we have Mr. Vinicio, the IT manager with 20 years plus experience in IT industry. Main skills include architecture, design, hardware, and AMP softwares, team management, deep knowledge of the port business, senior service technology manager, Abu Dhabi Ports, Makta for December 2016 until now, and managing 3 areas: software development, business analysis, and operations. So I think today the audience is going to see such an amazing to get all of together here, and I would like to come to the questions and all to address our real issues. So I will start with Mr. So Mr. Pieter. Can I know that what could be the technological advancement that could enhance the shipping industry?
Yes, well, there's really a lot at the moment. So you're looking at machines, at robots, at software, at tools, at platforms. To say, okay, we build a strategy and we want to create a path forward, and then we understand what we are going to use. Are we going to do robots in combination with other items and so on? I mean, it depends on your business, of course, but there is really a lot available at the moment. It's just the willingness of the companies to invest in that and to get rid of, let's say, the old mindsets that everything can be done internally. We don't need outside parties, and we have people enough who can do it. So you need to have the right mindset to be able to apply that technology and the new things in digitization.
Right. What I would like to hear from you is that the logistics is basically from end to end, from the procurement of raw material till the finished goods. So can you share it, that what are we seeing the changes in the technological innovation and ideas which is already in the place, and what is we are going to, and what is the value additions has been in terms of technology?
Well, the interesting thing about logistics is that you always have to work with different parties because it's a chain. So when you work from let's say raw material to an end product and ship that, it goes all over the world. And that's where basically the complications start. So you have different parties that are at different levels of innovation and digitization. And in order for data to shift along that supply chain, you need to be able to be on the same level. So, but different parties are in different stages. So what is very important that people understand that you need to take things, data, papers, regulations, and everything, that you need to streamline that, but you also need to bring it to a online level where you can easily fetch that documentation, feed that in other systems, and then use that internally to get it, to bring it to other systems as well, because that's really what makes it efficient. Otherwise, you have many different parts in that supply chain, which makes it very difficult. If you bring it online, you already take out several parts, several stops of that data. So that would make it already a lot more efficient.
Very good, thank you. I see that you had a very good experience, in terms of the freight audit and payment and logistics. So can you just briefly tell us that what have you experienced the technology's role in your business, which has transformed over these 2 decades? I can see through that you have gone through it. What do you see the changes in the landscape so that our viewer audience can understand that, oh, wow, this is happening in terms of payment, in terms of audit control, in terms of whatever that you feel like,
So what you see in the 80s and the 90s, there was a big sort of big implementations. Of course, you have SAP and Oracle and so on. And then came the big wave of TMS systems, big TMS systems, but also smaller ones. And nowadays you have SaaS SAP systems. And back when I started in the software industry, talking about an interface was really a big thing. We said, oh, you need to build an interface. And it will take months to build it, and it will cost a lot of money. Nowadays, you have APIs. You can connect with other systems, and it takes 2 days to set it up, or you have a standard set, and it costs a couple of hours to make the setup. So that has enormously changed. And where people used to say, we want to have, let's say, use it as an example because it's such a big company, SAP. We want SAP because they have everything. Now you can say, I only take this for this function, and I take something else for the finance function, and something else for planning, and this I take for operational things, and this I do for payment. Because the different systems are on the market, they are much cheaper, and they can be interconnected fairly easily than it used to be. So that makes the choice of products much easier. So nowadays, people are way more flexible in creating the solutions that they want, instead of buying a very big license for everything, because eventually it doesn't work. It doesn't work for everybody, let's say.
Thank you very much for your enlightening answer to this. Where do you see this, our trade reboot technology fits into and helps you in terms of your business, and how do you see that we are going to save the world in terms of technological innovation through the trade reboot?
Well, that's a question hard for me to answer, because I would say that would be specific to trade reboot. But in general, I would say that when you go digitize things, you take out several steps. You make data available. You make data visible. And that makes it that you can make decisions faster, more efficient, and with more certainty than when the data is sitting somewhere and is not accurately distributed to the right people or to the right systems.
Thank you very much. If I say this in one sentence, rather to describe the technology like Trade Reboot, which is coming with the blockchain technology to give you the safe, secure, and transparent, what will be your say to that?
Can you repeat?
When I say in one sentence to summarize the benefit of the technology like Trade Reboot, as we see the video, very nice, and I feel really proud of that. Mr. Dheeraj Khandelwal could come up with this technology. So can you know how it is in one sentence? What is your feeling about this?
Well, I would say that when you have the right data, you have the power to make the right decisions. and that makes things a lot easier.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll move on to Mr. Kaushik, and we'll come back to you if there's any secure. Otherwise, I have some few more questions to ask. So we need to engage ourselves. Mr. Kaushik, welcome you. And
Thank you.
I see that you have been very much strong on quant, and then you have been trying to solve the real pain of the industry, because I come from the dry bulk operating business, and I can understand that how important is today's trade and how to balance and be portfolio hedged, whether it's we are long on the cargoes, I mean short on the cargoes or long on the vessels. So can I know that where do you see the role in machine learning and AMP AI in commercial shipping?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me, and welcome to everyone else. So I think the way I'm looking at machine learning and AI, I think we are at just the cusp of we've just started our journey in this space within shipping, and the trend of machine learning and AI in commercial shipping is only going to grow up. Primarily because there are three major trends which are currently happening. One is the data which is available currently, which is available today. Just to give you an example, last week a vessel ran aground on Suez, and the amount of information and the data, how fast it traveled, in just 2 or 3 days, the whole world was sharing, memes about the vessel which ran aground in Suez. 5 years ago, I was, we wouldn't even be sure how many vessels are transiting the Suez Canal, because we didn't have AIS signals, or we didn't have any service provider capturing these signals. So the way I see it, the information and data is only going to increase. The pace at which the information transfer is going to happen is going to increase. With connectivity coming in, with Starlink also coming in, I think the whole data aspect is one big factor. The second one is the computing power. From where we see 5 years ago to where it is today, I definitely see that the computing power has phenomenally increased. Machine learning, not just in terms of image recognition or text to speech, but also there are a lot of other factors where deep learning can come into picture. And the third one, as I see it, is shipping, at least dry bulk. There is appetite for investing in alternate derivatives, and freight derivatives provide a very good alternative to people to generate additional returns for their portfolio. So I think all these factors are very good for us when it comes to dry bulk markets, where I see more sophistication, which would come into the commercial shipping space. And that's something which we are also trying to introduce in the dry bulk space.
Okay. So where does the quant ship really fits into this arena? I mean, in terms of when you say about dry bulk or in digitalization in shipping, where do you quickly can highlight more for our viewers to understand?
Absolutely. So I think, as you briefly mentioned, at QuantShip, we're bringing algorithms and AI, not very different from what the quant traders have been using to extract alpha in the stock and commodity markets. So what we essentially do is we provide intelligence. We crunch a lot of data from satellite sources, macroeconomic numbers, commodity prices, the future markets, and then use all this alternate data to help market participants like charterers, traders, operators, ship owners take better positions on the commodity freight markets. So in a sense, what we are doing is giving you an unbiased view of where the market would be based on the leading indicators and the data that we see. And you can use that information to make better decisions. So in a sense, it's the introduction of this machine learning and AI, which would be an aid to better decision making. That's something what we are doing and bringing to the industry.
Right. Since I am very much from the dry bulk and my soul connects to this particular technology innovations, and I'm very much pro, and thank that you are on the panel. I would like to ask that, in terms of derivatives, like say we subscribe the Thomson Reuters, we are the member of Baltic Index, and seeing all these correlations, etc. So, I mean, it's a very technical questions in terms of, I'm not sure if it's okay. that our Supramax or Panamax or all these things have been divided in the routes. And at the end of the day, if you look at it as a hedging tool, there is no perfect retro voyage which charters are moving. The Baltic Index has been designed when the developing age was for Europe and US and etc. But now the 60 to 70% trade is lying into the Asia, where the cargoes are moving to, let's say, Vietnam, now Bangladesh and India, and Persian Gulf to Bangladesh. So these routes don't have any correlation whatsoever with the Baltic.
Yes.
And they're very lopsided. Maybe index will go 200 points, but the rates here can go for $10,000 per day also. I mean, in a very short time, what we are seeing it. Where do you see that your concept or algos fits into it when so much of disparity is there, when the data for still is to start with is not there, right?
Absolutely. I think you've made a very interesting point, especially number one is when we are looking at very specific routes, the physical freight not being very correlated with, how the futures are pricing. And I think in the bigger vessel segments, I think it's more or less standard when I look at, Cape sizes, even the Panamax for that matter, we're looking at Pacific versus Atlantic, and we're looking at a few routes there. But on the smaller sizes, obviously there's a very big pain point when it comes to, one-to-one correlation. Also, it comes with a huge basis of technology. We can come up with better estimate of where the market would be. I'm talking about, using for example, in containers, there's already usage of big data to actually index different trade lanes. I think that could be something which might eventually come in the dry bulk space as well, where instead of having a panel of brokers reporting to a body, we might actually have much more, I would say, real-time index, which moves according to the demand and supply. And that could actually, and more instruments like, futures can be created on that, which could help traders and owners. So I think that's an opportunity, especially in the smaller segments, that I think we are missing in the dry bulk space.
Exactly. See, this is what I've seen over the decades of data analysis, that in the Q3, Q4, there's a 40% of weightage by the Atlantic routes, which suddenly dries out in the Q1 and Q2. What we see this year has been a completely very much speculative buying by the China or certain factors, which is not seen over seasons, over decades actually. So thank you very much for a very good insight, and exactly you addressed the point. Actually, there's no answer to it, as we have to come up with some kind of technical qualification and supported by the quant and etc. Maybe who knows that we will decide the next index. We as an Indian and Asian basically.
Absolutely.
Because that we are the user of it and we are the victim of it if we are not able to get the right data. So
absolutely.
Thank you for it, and I think we'll share on more data onto this. And we are only at this point of time Mr. I think we are three only here, right, at the panel. Mr. Pieter is also not there, right?
I'm here, and I saw that
Pieter, you are there.
Jerome also joined. In the meantime.
Hi. Hello, hello, Captain Govind. Yes. So, have you got any questions for me, Captain Govind, or would you like me to participate after Kaushik?
So I have a few questions to you. Thank you very much, first of all, joining the session. And we just finished with a few questions initial with Mr. Pieter and to Mr. Kaushik. So, Mr. Jerome, how do you see the multinational manage their inbound raw materials to digitize shipments?
So to look at what Kaushik just covered here is that the shipping industry itself, when we say digitizing the shipping industry, is that Kaushik covered a lot about how the internal participants of the industry digitize themselves to optimize things, how the cargo capacity is going to be better for the companies, how the tech industry is helping the traders to trade commodity based on what's happening in the world of shipping. And just before that, Pieter covered how large multinational companies gear up their systems around ERP integration and how they integrate. So let's not forget that the shipping industry is part of a supply chain. It's a link that helps companies get inbound raw materials from India, for example, or Asia, through the UAE down to their manufacturing or their distribution centers in Europe or Latin America. So far, I think we've covered a lot how the industry digitizes itself inside, but don't forget that the shipping industry basically ships two types of cargo. Number one is the physical cargo, but the second that is even more important now is the digital information that relates to that cargo. So going to what Pieter was talking about a little bit earlier, let's say I manufacture a certain type of product. I'm a French or a British company, or I'm based in Latin America. I need to source my inbound materials from Asia, and I'm going to use an Indian set of partners for my shipping. I need to do a few basic things. I need to be able to order. I need to be able to have shipment notices. I need to be able to tell people like Vinicio in the port authorities that my cargo is going to come through their authorities. I need to be able to track and trace. I need to be able to know the condition of my goods and the temperature. So as a multinational, I need to consume information out of the shipping industry. So this is a lot about how the shipping industry can publish information outside of their walls for their customers to consume. So this is how multinationals start to see the world. How can I grab information out of my shipping partners so I can better manage my supply chain, my stock levels, my disruptions? And that's pretty much what is for them the digital transformation of the shipping area.
Right, thank you. It's very interesting. I mean, you touched a few chords, which I would like to, for our viewers audience, to get into more details. Like how the ecosystem is. Can you briefly try to map it? Like, say, when you say raw material, you are talking about that absolute kind of a shipper. Maybe prior to that origination, do you have some kind of an ecosystem? Like, say, we are in a dry bulk shipping. A lot of things are happening over the emails and etc. Our systems are not talking to each other. Still, we are discussing in a silo, and there is a big cost to it if something does not match it. We see a lot of surprises, which is producing a cost to us actually at the end of the day. And when we are talking about digitalization in shipping, that is what the pain we are trying to address. So where do you see we stand at present, and what do you see that concrete steps will be there to be taken forward, which can help us enable to save cost and to improvise the system?
Right. So if you take a broad view of the whole value chain, from the direct material is extracted from the ground, then it's getting shipped, then it arrives somewhere else and it moves on. Companies and participants need to interact with each other. They need to agree deals, sign contracts, agree purchase orders, invoice. Then there is the manifest of the board. Then there's all sorts of regulatory stuff people have to go through. So it goes from, first of all, at the very basic level, digitizing the people-to-people interaction for the small and medium type of businesses across shipping industry. But don't forget that the big game here is for any kind of company to grow in scale and to get orders from large shipping orders from large multinational companies. I don't know. Let's say I'm inside a company that makes parts for the automotive industry. I want to be able to put bulk orders. The bigger the customer is, the more they will ask the company from India or UAE to be able to exchange a data feed. So Pieter was talking about API before. If I'm a medium-sized or large organization and I want to leverage a shipping partner from India or UAE, more and more, I will expect you to give me access to what is called an API or a file that I can grab from your system to inject in my ERP system. So more and more, the world expects the shipping industry to be able to provide this type of data that is digitized. So less and less emails or fax and paper, and more data exchange, or in the worst case situation, to help a human being type a form online, and that form becomes an XML file or something that kind of on the other side. So that's how the first step of digitization, I think, should happen, is how do you digitize the human to human interaction into something more automatic and digital.
Thank you very much. You touched really a great insight, and that is where I feel, the trade reboot technology fits in. Actually, it brings all the stakeholders on one platform. How do you feel about that actually? Because when you are making a contract with, say, shipper from the India, you will have to contract with him, right? Then you'll have to sign that this contract, this much quantity, this much delivery, this is the time, and uh, so your contract comes the basic origin for any kind of dispute, any kind of commitment from the both end, and then it comes that commercial transactions, maybe the insurance regarding to that, or maybe need a funding or need a financing. So then the banks comes into it, and then the shipment to be loaded, and then agency they have to sign the electronic BL that has to be loaded, and the transaction has to come through, and then everything has to fall in place and has to be very secure data, and then the information has to move to the next level up to the receiver end till the goods goes. So what do you see about the trade?
Right.
Do you agree with me that this is a kind of a platform or technology which is going to help us in terms of bringing the entire stakeholders on this platform? And really, I believe that is really a kind of a very good technology, amazing technology with the blockchain security data has to give that peace of mind actually. Otherwise, we are all very much living in silo at this point of time. I really wanted to hear from you on this aspect of service. Not I'm trying to trade reboot, but I'm seeing that there's a technology need and which we are trying, which trade reboot is trying to bring up. So can you please highlight on this?
So within the shipping industry of the bilateral relations of UAE and India, yes, that's a great fit for the market participant to use a common standard and a common means to exchange information and integrate. However, let's not forget, when I am a company in UAE and my big customers are all over the world, it's a natural dynamic of a commercial relationship. I have to comply with what my customer asks me to do to interact with them. So if they tell me, please interact with this color blockchain and that API, and this is how I want you to write down exactly my track and trace IoT data, we have sometimes to follow what the customer is going to ask and choose the technology that sometimes they impose on us. So being open and have international standards is great, but also to have the flexibility to be able to conform to the customer technology.
True. Actually, this is what the pain happens actually whenever the new technology concept comes, because before the internet came, everybody has a doubt, that what will happen, how it will happen. Before, when the camera came, nobody phone. I mean, Kodak got vanished over decades, right? Nobody talks about the Kodak. Nobody talks about the Xerox. Some kind of paradigm shift. What I see the technologies brings into it. Do you see that this kind of technology going to bring a paradigm shift the way we operate from here, maybe next 5 years or 10 years? What do you see? If you don't think, then what is the bottleneck? Because I really want to see that how do we resolve our pain? Because logistics is such a big value chain that disruption can happen at any point of time. And if we cannot address those things, then we are always having a headache and we can't.
Yeah, I think so. I believe in everything you say, and I'm a technology enthusiast, but I believe things start with the problem. What are the top 5 problems that a certain participant is facing? How big and painful is the problem? And then let's create the use case and see how can technology help that, but not the other way around, starting with the technology saying, oh, I've got the best, this technology, where can I find a problem to address that? So I think it's basically the market of shipping industry is divided in many different categories. It's a very saturated market in the world, and each participant have their own needs. And Kaushik and Trade Reboot are a great position to address a few of those indeed.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you so much for your real answers. And these are all the few pain points which we want to say, especially what I have seen, recently, the banking industry got hit very badly. There's been a 2.4 billion by a big greenhouse. It's called Phoenix Commodities. And it just all happened because they can print the multiple bill of lading due to the multiple banks, and then the multiple banks maybe a hand in gloves, and they issued, and finally the bank got a scam. Recently, we had a Gulf Petro came. There, people can just print a bill and they got it, and they got to the bank. So that the scam is 1.4 billion. Recently, Han Leong got into the bunker company of Singapore. They got again about a 1.52 billion dollars. So what I'm trying to say that industry, we are back to back. We are getting all these kind of experiences, and still I believe there is a very much need, and I think this kind of technology will bring a paradigm shift and can address our issues, especially the trade. The bill of lading is kind of such an important document that unless that we don't secure it, nothing can be secured, and the banks and customers will have to pay money. Actually, we will pay in terms of goods, in terms of our cost of increase. So that thank you very much. I just highlighted this point so that our viewer can understand and can focus on to the improvisation in their value chain. So I believe that Mr. Vinicio has joined, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Mr. Vinicio. Thank you very much. A really pleasure to see you on board and to have your presence here. And I will straightway, I've given you introduction to our audience already. So I will come to the questions to you. Okay. Yep. I'll come back to you, Mr. Peter, Mr. Jerome, Mr. Kaushik once again. But let me finish with Mr. Vinicio. Mr. Vinicio, what do you feel, what is the hurdles do we see in digitalization of international trade? How do we overcome the same?
First of all, Captain Govind, thank you so much for inviting us to this event. Going back to your question, I will tell you something. What happens in the logistic chain, and specifically in the sea part, is that still, from technological point of view and from process point of view, it is in the 19th century. This is a paradox.
Thank you so much to acknowledge the fact and the pain.
Yeah, I've been in this market 20 years. Okay, I built the single window for the port of Barcelona, port community system. I built the equivalent in UAE, in Abu Dhabi. We are expanding, etc., etc. Okay, I'm an IT manager. Okay, but in reality, I love business. I used to use IT in order to fix business. So I'm a deeply IT guy. But I have to tell you something. What happens here is that container is in the 19th century, but bulk is worst. It's in the 15th century. No standards, no track and trace, no communication, no community, no ecosystem, nothing, no transparency. I will explain you. I have a big friend, one of the biggest engineering companies in the world. They used to have, before the coronavirus, they used to have projects of $3 billion, billion from V, okay? From these 3 billion, they spent $500 million in sea transport. And they don't know how they spend this money. Now the COVID shrink everything, but the issue is the same. And the issue, you can extend the issue to the container. I see all of you gentlemen, Peter and Kaushik and Jerome, I see you very optimistic that we are in the up of the wave. Trust me, there is nothing. If you want to track and trace a container with MSC, you have to connect to the portal and be someone tracking the thing, putting the number, etc., etc. If you want to track a container from China to Japan, you cannot. You cannot. Trust me. When arrives. Of course, there are some specific freight forwarders, there are some specific shipments. We know that. So, gentlemen, we are in the perfect moment. We know that there is nothing there. We have a big crisis because of COVID that will become a big economical crisis. Okay. In some moment of time, all the shipping lines, they will crash. This model is not sustainable from an ecological point of view, from traceability, from transparency, nothing. So going back to your point, Captain, sorry, you can stop me anytime. What happens? What happens here? Lack of standardization. There is no standards. No standards, especially in crucial documents like the electronic BL. There are some proof of concepts of electronic BL, but you cannot go with the electronic BL to your bank. You cannot, unless you are in the POC. The last year was a POC between Israel and Barcelona. I'm from Barcelona. And one bank of Israel was agreeing with one bank here in Barcelona to interchange the electronic bill. But it was by hand. The electronic bill was sent by hand. Let's not talk about the declaration of origin. Let's not talk about the customs documents, gentlemen. Never having any transparency on this thing. Most important than this thing, or equal, there is no process improvement at maritime level, at customs level, at terminal level, at port level. As I say, the processes are the same processes that you had in the 19th century. There are some APIs, as Peter said, okay? But the payload is not standard. Even the API is not standard. Okay? What I'm doing, I have 20 people just doing transformations from the information from MSC, from Costco, okay, from Maersk, sending to whatever place. You know, it's incredible. It's incredible. And another important thing, there is no a strong international regulation that supports that. Of course, there is the IMO, etc., etc., etc. But they are very slow. Okay, and again, this is an organization with roots in the 19th century. Okay, so for me, what we need a modern standardization and regulation, and this has to be done from top to bottom. It cannot be from bottom to top. It will not be done by one freight forwarder or for one shipping line. We need also to regulate the shipping lines. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
What I can understand that you realize the problem very well. We have highlighted once we know the problems and the solutions are easy actually.
Yes.
So
yes.
Where do you see we are having the lack of commitment? Like say we are stakeholder, you, me, everybody in the value chain is at the can say that we are at a stake of it, and we all have to play our role in doing some bit, right?
Yes.
So where do you see the resistance, or what is the one or two or maybe maximum 3 steps you feel can be taken to bring a tangible benefit in terms of solving our problems of these so many bottlenecks, delays, and hurdles, and lack of information? What do you think? Top 3 things. Like suppose you have been given a charge to change the world. What do you do?
Okay. I will start in the reverse way. I will not go to talk with shipping lines. I will not to talk with freight forwarders. I will not go to talk with shipping agents. Okay. I will go to talk with the final customers. Okay. Because who suffered this is the final customer. For example, in Abu Dhabi, there is a very big importer called Al Dahri, one of the biggest importers of food for animals. Okay. We are talking with them, and we take them, and then we talk with the shipping lines, and then we talk with freight forwarders, and then we talk with the banks. We have to change the way that we approach this business. We never more will be able to change this going to talk with the shipping lines or to a specific ports. We have to go to the big guys. This is the only way, because you know what happens now with this COVID and with this economical crisis, everyone realized that money is not infinite. Money is short. In my opinion, we have to reverse. And of course, we have to provide proper process improvement, proper standards that are not there. We have to define, we have to write the standards, and we have to give to them. And with the help of them, with their leverage, we have to force the trade to change. We have to force shipping lines to change. Sorry, go ahead, please.
Right. Thank you so much for your highlight. What I believe that always what I've seen in all these value chain, supply chain, if anything happens, major scams happen, the banks are always the sufferers. And I do not see one thing. If I had to pick up, I believe the banks, if the day they decide that, oh, my customer has to be safe, my buyer and supplier and the value chain has to be safe, I believe there's a very, very big lack of commitment from the banking institution, financial institutions, people there. So they are running the billions of dollars. When the customer loses, at the end of the bank loses basically.
Yeah.
Losing. Let's just give you the few examples. The banks are losing, but I still see that they are just thinking every trade as a silo. You know, they are not pro technology. I believe they are not in pro technology because their size of the banks are so big. They are very delayed to do it. That's where the fintechs are coming up, and they are giving a lot more better solution, smarter solution than even banks can do.
True.
The banking and if they can do it, then they can do it. Yeah, tell me.
I agree 100% with you. Banks is one of the stoppers of any kind of innovation in this logistic chain. Okay, it's extremely difficult. Okay, that's the reason that my approach is to go to the big customers, because the big customers, they are moving this $1 million and they have the leverage to say to them, guys, I want this. Okay, this is difficult, by the way. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. But it's the only way that I see that we can change something. For example, I'm an expert in port community systems. If core port community systems are not built by the port authority, you never will succeed. You need someone strong to make the thing work. In this case, it's the same. Within all of us, we have been listening about the blockchain, Bitcoin, etc., since 2008, 2009. Okay, why this thing is not working? Why?
What I would like to see that, as you said, there's the size of company and the finance matters. I have seen that Musk, AP Moller Musk, with the IBM technology, 4 years, they've spent $5 billion in making their system secure. Like you can, if apple gets rotten up, you can know that which source and which tree it has come from. So I believe there are big companies, shipping companies, they are trying to automate to service their customer, provide a value at the end of the day. So these are all some big steps what I see towards the blockchain technology and the technology like Trade Reboot also, which is coming up with kind of bringing all the stakeholders, bringing from shipper to the agents, to the clearing, to the insurance, to the bankers, to the end receivers, So these kind of technology, of course, is somebody's working and to provide it. It's just that a plug and pay kind of technology. I believe this is also one of the very big initiatives. I believe that in terms of technology can bring the paradigm shift actually. Where you suppose I'm a customer. If I choose tomorrow to do certain trade, it's an option for me. So I believe this kind of technology like Trade Reboots with the blockchain base can also provide a service where you have plug and pay kind of, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is what I feel. And other thing that stakeholders, they do something on their own and spend big money, create their own system. Of course, those options are there. How do you say about it?
Okay, I think you are true, but again, blockchain is not about the technology. Again, blockchain is about the regulation. Because imagine that your signature, okay, your electronic bill is inside the blockchain, okay, and this thing is read in Indonesia, okay, and the Indonesia government or the Indonesia port decided this is not true, okay. There is no leverage. There is no enforcement of the law. It's not about only that blockchain is secure. That it is. And if you let me open a bracket here, even IBM, they haven't implemented the right blockchain thing. Blockchain is distributed, okay? It's a distributed ledger. Blockchain is doing a single ledger with some backup thing. Even they themselves don't trust the technology that they didn't invent it. I close the bracket. Going back to my point, we need a strong regulation that enforce the countries, and this is the International Commerce Association, have to enforce that, guys. If you sign off this certificate inside this blockchain thing, okay, and this smart contract do proper validation and agrees on that, then this is the truth. And you as a country has to force that. And this is the difficult part. This is the reason of the low adoption of the blockchain, plus the people is not understanding exactly how this works, okay? But this is another story. But for me is, again, my point of lack of standardization and international regulation to support this. And who has to force this? Organizations like yours, organizations like mine from Abu Dhabi or from Barcelona. We have to push because we need crystal clear regulation on this new coming technology. And Kaushik, regarding smart artificial intelligence and machine learning, happens the same. What happens if the machine learning learn badly the thing? What happens there? Who is the responsible party on this thing, and so on? Because we know that inside blockchain, we can apply smart processes inside. Okay? Technology is there, but what lacks is the support from the regulators.
I believe if I like to summarize, I can say the education and training of the technology and reach to the people, because it's a mass. Everybody is a I mean 2/3 of the population lies in Asia, and there now we got the internet. And we see the blockchain technology just started a couple of years back, maybe 3-4 years. We have started to talk technology. Yeah. We are seeing this technology coming in 1 year. So I believe that adoption is very good. I believe the people, everybody share the same pain, and I believe it's just a process of education, training, bringing up the people, and stakeholders will slowly adopt. Governments are realizing, especially I see in India, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, he has been a great push. We got a blockchain foundation in India actually, which works with them directly. And so there's a lot of impetus. And I can see that India in last 5 to 10 years, you cannot believe that kind of digitalization has happened. We can't believe that we can buy a vegetable and pay with the barcode. This is the technology adoption has happened in India. So I'm sure across the world you will find the technology, playing role its own.
Absolutely, absolutely true. And please don't read me in negative way. Read me in positive way. What I'm trying to say is that there is a full of opportunities to companies that us, that we understand the business, we understand the technology, and we have some vision. This is the moment to build the solutions now.
Sure. Thank you very much. I know your each and every word has been very awakening to all of us, because first of all, we need to realize the problem, then only we need to talk about solution, and step by step we go there, So I appreciate you touching all the cards, important cards of it, where there are pain points. And further to it, I have a few minutes more, so I would like to ask a few more questions to Pieter. Pieter,
yes.
I think we had a good discussion. How do you think that COVID has affected the shipping industry, and what are the knock-on effects on the globally due to the COVID?
Well, I think it's enormous impact that we have seen and that we are seeing today, that resulted in lack of capacity of transportation equipment, but definitely also in lack of material because of the enhanced demand in, for example, computer chips or chips that are being used in cars, which in result delays the production of cars at the moment, and we see that basically everywhere, and that combined with regional difficulties where you have border closures, and this country is open but the other one is closed, but this country needs to receive the goods. So how do you go about that? I would say it's incredibly confusing, because you can say, okay, now we are allowed to travel again, but where are you going to go to? And you need to have extra documentation and so on. So and adds to that even things like Brexit and other stuff. You have so many challenges at the moment, and they are not going away just like that. Because I talk to companies that say, well, our revenue could be double, but we just cannot get the material, we cannot get the equipment, and we don't have capacity to actually ship it. So it's an extreme situation that is influencing the whole supply chain, either at the end, the customers just cannot get the product, or at the beginning, where you can just not make the product because you are not able to get the material. So I'm talking to importers of goods to say, yeah, the goods are delivered, but it's only 60% of the new fashion collection, and it's half of the fashion collection. So you get the pants, but you don't get the matching T-shirt. Okay, so how do you deal with that? It's just really incredible, and that's just an example, and there are so many different examples that are out there of how deep this has been affecting the supply chain.
What do you see? One thing that I've seen, that container freights have gone, which we unseen, of the almost high rates of the decades. What is the main contributor into that dissimilarity when we are facing the COVID, and all of a sudden in Q1 we saw that it's gone through the sky, the freights, container rates have gone. What do you contribute to the few regions, one or two regions, if you can combine?
why the pricing has gone up, you mean?
Container freight. What do you feel that has brought up this freight rate scenario as to be increased on 5 times, 6 times?
Well, it's definitely the capacity. If you look at the blank sailings of the shipping lines, they see increased interest in shipping, and they don't have the capacity. They didn't float the capacity. So yeah, then it's just the demand that defines the price, and it can be a bit opportunistic also by the shipping lines. But we should not forget that the shipping lines had a lot of difficult years as well in terms of a revenue, and yeah, they basically are having a monopoly on the sea, so they can basically ask the prices, ask any price that they want at the moment. So I think it's definitely capacity related, and yeah, the more people ask for containers, the higher the price goes.
Right. Okay. Thank you. We will touch upon that if we have that further too. Mr. Jerome, I would like to ask you, how can local Indian or UAE tech partners and logistic providers adopt to meet the changing need of supply chains?
So in terms of the exchange of information, because I'm not an expert in the actual supply chain issues that actually Pieter described so well here, the local players from a technology perspective or the entrepreneurs who run their business in the two regions need to think about a couple of important things. Is one, what Vinicio was explaining in terms of the diverse environment of regulation, technology, standards, ways to collaborate, places you can't track and trace, or types of cargo that might not be even allowed to arrive at a certain destination. People have to accept this is the reality. If you have 60 different pockets in the world to deal with, perhaps you should focus on those 60s one by one and make sure that you pin them down technically and operationally. How can the experts and the participants of UAE and India can harness this? I think since this is the part of the world that really has polarized a biggest chunk of the logistics of this world, I think a couple of countries or just companies could run pilots to agree together new standards or new ideas of not regulation, but self-regulate in some sort of collaborative ways. Blockchain is a way to exchange data, potentially working with other companies in technologies. So I think don't try to boil the ocean. It's an expression. It's funny here for the shipping industry. Don't try to create something new, but try to really look at what are the top burning fires in the industry that affect a specific customer or a specific shipping lane or a specific type of cargo, and what can be done to improve that. I think my customers are big pharma, CPG, distribution companies in the UK, Europe, and the US. And they are telling me that the number one issue is supply planning, track and trace. Exactly what Pieter was explaining. Can I know in advance how much of my supply chain is going to be fulfilled from my raw materials and all my suppliers and shipment partner? And how much am I going to be able to put on the shelves? And what they want is supply chain transparency. So I think the first thing that people can think about is, how can I publish information? Where is the boat? Where is the cargo? When is it likely to arrive or not arrive? Has it been stopped by the port authority? Is there a problem on the bill? Or that's information sharing. I think that could be a big differentiator for the local players.
Very good. Thank you so much that we are moving it. Kaushik, I would like to ask you, tell me one thing which can bring some kind of a paradigm shift in terms of digitalization in shipping, or will help us come together in order to bridge the gaps, whatever we see due to the lack of technology, or we see. Can you please guide us?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think let me answer this question from two sides, because I've seen both the container and the dry bulk side. I think container, Pieter, Jerome, and even Vinicio touched upon. Today, I think we are at a stage and container has a lot more opportunity from the shipping lines, because it's almost an oligopolistic market. And what I am seeing in the containers is, there's a lot more container freight, which is being booked online. So, Maersk has come up with their own sort of spot bookings, and, even the other liners have come as well. And COVID has actually accelerated the process of, online bookings on the container side. So I think apart from the online bookings of the container side, which I think is currently about 20%, which is good. And I only see that increasing. But there's a lot of APIs and, data which is not being exchanged, especially, track and trace for that matter, or, how the container is being loaded, if it's stuck at like, a transshipment hub. So there's a lot of information that is being missed. And I hope in terms of paradigm shift, connectivity, vessel connectivity could really, if you have satellite, with Starlink or Elon Musk coming in, and let's say if the adoption increases in the container segment, we would be in a position where we could actually track what is in the containers, what is the condition of that in the containers, and then an information flow could happen. So I feel vessel connectivity could be a very big thing in the container side. In the dry bulk, I think we are very, very, far behind when it comes to information asymmetry, information exchange, and a lot of transactions which happen are again voice brokered, happen through a broker, and the charter party is again, not standard, and there's a lot of negotiation back and forth over email which keeps happening. So I feel in the dry bulk segment, if you are able to capture the transactions where we standardize the charter party, and then you come to a blockchain platform could be a very, very big process within the dry bulk, where we can actually measure the transactions, and that could also in a way link to the futures as well, where you can actually see the transactions which are happening on the physical and then take better a view on the future market. So I feel bulk needs a long way to go when it comes to information exchange between different parties, and I feel a blockchain could be a very good technology.
Right. Mr. Vinicio, I would like to ask you one question which has been affecting our life still now, last 1 year. How do you see our shipping has affected pre-pandemic and now post-pandemic? We can't say post-pandemic, we are still going through the pandemic. In terms of the shipping, digitalization in our life, in order to come back to the pre-pandemic era, what do you think we need, or where do we stand, the pain points?
For me, there are two visions here: the short term, midterm. Short term is now, midterm is in the next 2-3 years. In the short term, there is a drop. We know the drop between 6 and 80% of the volume worldwide, etc., etc., etc. This is there. But in the mid-long term, nothing will happen. Everything will come back to the reality. They will build their big ships of 25,000 TEUs. Everything will come back to the normal thing. This is the same thing that happens in the early 20th century with the Spanish flu. Okay, it was 50 million people died. The economy of the world goes very down, and after 10 years, nothing happens. So in the reality, now is the moment to now is the moment to use this time to leverage a change in the world, in the maritime world, because after 5 years, everything will work exactly the same. Nothing will change, because at the end, we have to be clear. 80-90% of the containers are moved by 5 companies. Okay, nothing will change unless we, from digitalization, will change. We have a 5 years window to enforce these standards, to change, to apply the real blockchain thing. That's extremely difficult. This is extremely difficult to do it. I've been there, and it's a difficult thing. And to involve governments and big entities in order to help us to have these standards. This is my vision.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your this thing. I will just give you a last one sentence to everybody to say about this conference, and how can we summarize best to this session. I will start with you, Mr. Vinicio.
Okay. I think I say the phrase: we are in the perfect moment to change everything in the world now. This is our perfect moment.
Thank you. And Mr. Jerome?
I would say make sure you can publish your information and let other people consume it.
Thank you very much. Kaushik? Mr. Kaushik?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel this is a very good time, not just in commercial shipping, but also, decarbonization when it comes to, how as an industry we need to look at technology and better inform the other stakeholders.
Mr. Pieter, can I have your golden words?
Yeah, I would say there's really a lot still to do, but there's also a lot possible. But we need to take a collaborative approach to make it happen.
Thank you very much to all of you. And it's been a very engaging session, actually. I've never attended such kind of as a moderator. And I can only say to you that we have addressed across the value chain, actually, from the container to dry bulk to all kind of shipping, from the shipper to the manufacturer to the end receivers. And I think that everybody appreciates the need of the technology, especially the blockchain technology, something like what the Trade Reboot is offering, the all stakeholder of value, where everybody can just plug and pay as per their usage. And I wish all the good luck to you, all of you, and to Trade Reboot and to this conference going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Everyone. Thank you, Jerome. Thank you,
Take
Peter.
care.
Thank you, Kaushik. Thank you, Vinicio.
Thank you.
Thank you, Govind
Bye-bye.
Gautam for excellent session. Superb, brilliant, and people are appreciating. Superb session. Great contribution. Great insight knowledge on the shipping, all things. Thank you, everyone.
All the best. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right.